Released in 1994, The Shawshank Redemption is probably the greatest movie that no one ever saw when it initially came out, but one that has gone on to be recognized as a true masterpiece. Based on a short story by Stephen King and directed with passion by Frank Darabont, it tells the story of Andy, played by Tim Robbins, a banker who lives in Maine in 1947, who is wrongfully accused of murder, where he is sent to live out the rest of his days at the brutal and corrupt Shawshank State Penitentiary, where over the years he develops a powerful bond with fellow inmate Red, played by Morgan Freeman, where Andy also inspires hope throughout the penitentiary and makes everyone's lives that bit brighter. As through the connection of Andy and Red, we see one of the most powerful cinematic friendships in movie history. The Shawshank Redemption is a movie that shows us that one poster of Rita Hayworth can inspire us and give us hope to see light at the end of the tunnel. So to celebrate this classic movie, we are going to look into 10 things that you didn't know about The Shawshank Redemption. Let's check it out. Number 10, based on a short story. As mentioned, The Shawshank Redemption is based on a short story by Stephen King, although the original story is actually called Rita Hayworth and The Shawshank Redemption, a reference to the poster Andy gets of the 1940s era actress for his jail cell. The story was published in 1982 as part of his anthology novel Different Seasons, which also features The Body, which would also get a movie adaptation in the form of Stand By Me. There are several differences between the film and movie, such as the young rebellious inmate Tommy doesn't get killed in the short story like he does in the movie, but instead is moved to a different prison, and the character Red is described as being a white Irishman with red hair. And unlike the movie, which ends in the late 60s, the short story ends in the late 70s. But other than that, the two versions of the stories are actually quite similar. Number 9. The movie's production started with a short movie. Director Frank Darabont's journey to The Shawshank Redemption started all the way back in 1983, when he made a short film based on a short Stephen King story called The Woman in the Room. King sold Darabont the rights to the script for $1, as King had a policy for selling the rights to his stories to new and upcoming filmmakers for hardly any money, in order to help get their careers off the ground, where Darabont and King sparked up a friendship, and after working on The Woman in the Room, Darabont would go on to work on his first feature Hollywood movie, where he acted as a co-writer for A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, The Dream Warriors. Despite entering the terrifying dream world of Freddy Krueger, it was King's short story Rita Hayworth and The Shawshank Redemption that Darabont really wanted to explore, so after A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, he brought the rights to King's short story for $5,000 to turn into a feature film, despite the fact that King actually thought The Shawshank Redemption couldn't be turned into a movie and was basically unfilmable. In fact, King never kept the $5,000. Instead, he framed it and returned it to Darabont with a note reading, "In case you need bail money." Number 8. Rob Reiner really wanted to direct. Darabont, over the course of 5 years, worked on the script for his cinematic version of The Shawshank Redemption, adding some of his own elements and even taking inspiration from movies like Goodfellas when it came to the style of writing. The script found its way to Castle Rock Entertainment, when a producer for the company, Liz Glotzer, found the script and threatened to quit Castle Rock if the company didn't produce it. Luckily, Castle Rock's co-founder Rob Reiner also loved the script, so much so he wanted to direct the movie himself. Now, Reiner was no stranger to the works of Stephen King, having already directed Stand By Me and Misery. Reiner offered Darabont $3 million to let him direct the movie, along with Castle Rock also financing any other movie that he would wish to make. Which surely would have been an offer too good for Darabont to refuse. However, fate had other plans. Number 7. Casting possibilities. Rob Reiner was so into The Shawshank Redemption script, he even started planning the casting, with him wanting to cast Tom Cruise in the role of Andy and Harrison Ford in the role of Red. Darabont thought long and hard about Reiner's offer, but decided to direct the movie instead, as he felt that following his dreams was more important than money. So Reiner acted as a mentor to Darabont for The Shawshank Redemption, and the project was given a budget of $25 million by Castle Rock. There were tons of famous names that Darabont had considered for the Andy and Red parts, including Kevin Costner, Tom Hanks, Johnny Depp, Nicolas Cage, Gene Hackman, and Clint Eastwood, all of which were either uninterested or unavailable. Darabont cast Tim Robbins in the role of Andy because he liked his performance in Jacob's Ladder, and the legendary Morgan Freeman was cast as Red. Freeman had previously made waves with his roles in movies like Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, and Power of One. Interestingly, Brad Pitt was cast as the cool slick inmate Tommy, but dropped out after the movie he had previously starred in, Thelma and Louise, became a big hit. I guess he just wanted bigger roles, and the part was then cast with Gil Bellows instead. Interestingly enough, in the early days of production, the movie went under the same name as the short story, Rita Hayworth and The Shawshank Redemption, where of course many actors apparently turned up to audition for the role of Rita Hayworth, thinking that the actress was actually a character in the film. Number 6. Tim Robbins went all out to prepare himself for the role. Once Robbins was cast in the role of the movie's main lead, Andy, he actually really got involved in the movie's production, by even getting cinematographer Roger Deakins a job in the production after working with him on the movie The Hudsucker Proxy. Considering that he was to play a character who spent many years incarcerated, Robbins really wanted to get into that headspace, where he would do things like spend afternoons in solitary confinement, and would even spend hours with his arms and legs shackled in chains, and would often talk to prison guards as well as prisoners. Heck, the guy even observed caged animals in zoos. That's how committed he was. So it makes you wonder, with all this research Robbins was doing, what did Morgan Freeman do? Well, nothing. With the actor saying, acting the part of someone who's incarcerated doesn't require any specific knowledge of incarceration, because men don't change. Clancy Brown, who played the villainous scary prison guard, was going to meet up with former prison guards of Ohio State Correctional Facilities, but ended up turning the meeting down as he didn't want the brutal nature of the character to be linked to real-life prison guards. I just find it funny that Tim Robbins was running around here and running around there to try and get himself into character, even incarcerating himself. But Morgan Freeman was like, meh, it'll be alright. I don't need to do any research. But still, both actors do a brilliant job in the movie, and it just goes to show that different actors have different ways of doing things. All that matters really is the final result. Number 5. Filming was tense. Most of the location filming for The Shawshank Redemption took place at Ohio State Prison, thanks to its dark Gothic look and brickwork. The prison had previously closed down in 1990 due to having inhumane living standards. The filming lasted 3 months and consisted of 18-hour-long workdays, 6 days a week. Something that both Robbins and Freeman claimed was a real strain. Apparently Darabont required multiple takes. The scene where Andy approaches Red about the rock hammer took 9 hours alone to film due to all the requested reshoots Darabont wanted to make. And the scene involved the Red character to be constantly throwing a baseball. Freeman's arm got so sore it actually ended up in a sling. Freeman said because of this there was frequently tension between the cast and Darabont. And on one occasion he even refused to do all the multiple takes for a scene. I guess he had just had enough. But thankfully everyone soldiered on, and regardless of the conflict and turmoil that may have taken place while making the movie, Darabont, Freeman and Robbins all made The Shawshank Redemption great for their contributions. I mean, yeah, I would imagine that it is a tough shoot. I mean, after all, they are playing prisoners in a brutal prison facility. Their situation isn't meant to be nice and comfortable. I mean, it's not like they were filming on an exotic beach or anything. Number 4. Shawshank posters. I think when it came time to marketing The Shawshank Redemption, they just couldn't seem to come up with an engaging movie poster, as several were put together, and I don't think that either really had that wow factor. The main poster that was used was this one of the Andy character standing in the rain after he escapes. Which is fine, but unless you know what happens in the movie, this poster doesn't really say anything about The Shawshank Redemption to new audiences. I mean, really, it's just a man standing in the rain. It could be about anything. So to try and put more of an insight into the movie, this poster was put together, with cutouts of Tim Robbins and Morgan Freeman's heads, this time above the Andy character standing in the rain. Now, this poster is an improvement, and the one that I most recognise the movie with, but it still doesn't really say much other than it stars Tim Robbins and Morgan Freeman. Then there is this poster, which looks like a photo that was taken during the movie's shoot, which has also been slightly photoshopped to look more like a movie poster. I actually like this better than the previous two, as it shows us that this is a jail penitentiary setting, with the main focus being on these two guys who are good friends. And I also find it to be a nice visually pleasing photo. However, the poster artwork for The Shawshank Redemption would reach its full potential 10 years later after its release, where movie poster legend Drew Struzan illustrated this glorious poster for a special DVD release. And wow! Talk about finally getting a home run after several failed attempts. This poster is both engaging and beautiful and gets you interested in wanting to know more about the movie. In fact, I wonder if this would have helped The Shawshank Redemption more if this was the poster used for its theatrical release. Yeah, no doubt, this is definitely my favourite movie poster representation of The Shawshank Redemption. Brilliant. Number 3, issues with the ending. In The Shawshank Redemption's post-production, many changes had to be made to the film, as the original cut was 2.5 hours long. It had to be cut down in order to make the movie more punchy and not to drag so it wouldn't lose the audience's attention. But while some scenes were being cut out, other scenes were being put in, namely a new ending. The original ending just saw Red on the bus heading to the Mexican border to see Andy, and that was it. The movie was to end right there, but it was felt that that ending wasn't rewarding enough, and that the audience would want to see Red reunite with Andy. Darabont didn't like the idea of the new ending, finding it too commercial and sappy. Castle Rock funded the new ending to be shot, with it being a possible ending to use should Darabont change his mind. And after test screenings, it became clear that the audience were happier with the ending where Red and Andy reunited. So Darabont caved in and included the new extended ending for The Shawshank Redemption's final cut. Even Freeman and Robbins preferred the new ending as they felt it gave the story that needed closure. Number 2, issues with the title. Something that seemed to have caused issues and obstacles for The Shawshank Redemption was its title, as not many people were a fan of it. Producer Nicky Marvin said that they were teased by the press for having what they felt to be one of the worst movie titles ever. Robbins and Clancy Brown have both made examples of how the movie just didn't seem to roll off the tongue, with Robbins saying that people would ask him, what was that Shawshank Reduction thing? It was felt that the movie's title even hurt The Shawshank Redemption's box office outcome. There apparently were even suggestions to rename the movie. Interestingly, at one stage during the shoot, the movie was just simply called Rita Hayworth, which is interesting. I can actually sort of understand where people were coming from. I mean, when we think about The Shawshank Redemption now, we think of an epic movie about life in prison while remaining hope. But back in 1994, most people had never heard of The Shawshank Redemption before, and thus didn't know what to make of the title. But I'm glad that it was given the title, as it has now become part of the movie, and it's perfect the way that it is, and I wouldn't want it any other way. Number 1, it wasn't a box office hit. The test screenings for The Shawshank Redemption were exceedingly positive. However, when the movie came out in September 1994, it was a box office disaster, despite not only going on to be regarded as one of the greatest movies of the 90s, but also regarded as one of the greatest movies of all time. It only made $58 million on its $25 million budget. Darabont said that it landed with a hollow thud at the box office, as it seems that no one went to see it, despite those who did giving it great praise. There were several explanations given for its failings, such as going against Forrest Gump and Pulp Fiction in the box office, and it was also felt that at that time people wanted to see action-packed blockbusters with the likes of Arnold Schwarzenegger and Bruce Willis. They probably weren't interested in this drama movie set in a prison. Shawshank Redemption would go on to be nominated for 7 Academy Awards, of which actor Gil Bellows called the quietest 7 Academy Award nominations he's ever heard of. But thankfully, The Shawshank Redemption grew with people in time, where people finally saw it for the masterpiece that it is, and it definitely has gone on to become a beloved classic adored by those who watch and embrace it. The Shawshank Redemption is the story of the human spirit and demonstrates strength and survival. It guides us, the viewer, down a path of a mesmerizing tale about doing what we must to get by and to reach our goals, to seek the light at the end of the tunnel, which will lead us to liberation, and that hope will set us free. Stephen King calls the Shawshank Redemption movie a callback to dramas of the 40s and 50s, and I agree. Despite the movie's grit and dark themes, it has an elegance in its storytelling that isn't matched in modern cinema. And I can't really praise this movie enough or recommend it enough. If there is anyone out there who needs a little bit more hope in their lives, then The Shawshank Redemption definitely is the movie for you. Anyway, I'm Minty, and although Andy crawled through a tunnel of shit to freedom, the poo in question was actually water mixed with chocolate syrup and sawdust. Yep, there's a bonus feature for ya. See ya!